back on this second segment, and yes, today we'll be talking about water, and yes, why water? And I know that what I'm holding in this glass is water as well, and it is our Earth's most precious resource, and you will die without it, plants will die without it, animals will die without it, fish can't swim without it. As earlier as I was talking on the first segment, I think it was during the middle of the first episode when I decided to talk about the California running out of water, and also Brazil was in one of the Brazilian cities as well, that 40 million of the population is already getting affected by the drought that occur in the area, in which that's about almost 10 times the population here in New Zealand. And yes, people will fight over water as well, because to know that it is a precious resource. It really is. It's really a precious resource, and and we and we will die within 3 days without it. That's why I can do some work, keep my fluids up, because I need it, you need it, people. Water is our precious resource. It helps to cleanse our body as well, keeps us hydrated, so we can actually do more during our work hours as well. And there was one of the news that I was gonna be talking about, and just gotta find it. News to cover, and it says that global water wars threat by 2030. That was from the US intelligence as well. And for what they say could be true. They say there could be a global water war by 2030. And yes, that can be the case. And how long 2030? It's 15 years away, people. 15 years. So it's time to wake up. Because 15 years can come by quite quickly. So it's time to wake up. Because otherwise we'll be facing water wars, and that is not going to be great though. And yes, water terrorism threats as well. And yes, that can be possible as well. And yes, and probably about a couple of billion always starting to feel the effects of with the water as well, because the water is contaminated, it's unsafe to drink as well, and it's so dirty and that. And because you don't know what's actually lurking in the weathers and that as well. And yeah, if you don't actually really kill it off by boiling up properly and that, man, boy, you actually do get some parasites in your bodies as well. And that's something you don't want to have that lurking in as well. And yeah, and yes, water demands do double every 21 years. And we all know why. And yes, engineering, that's engineering the weather that cause droughts and that. That will lead that to the possibility. And yes, water privatization, and that's another. And yes, water wars will also be another as well. Yeah. And let's look over to water privatization. And yes, that's when you have greedy corporations that decides that they want money rather they actually care about money rather than the people as well. And yes, and they want to create a blue goal in which so they can actually control all the water in the world. And yes, we actually got a CEO from Nestle that says that water shouldn't be human right, it should be privatized. That's from the Nestle CEO that owns Nestle. He says it should be privatized. But man, it's been happening over the world. They've just been sucking up those lakes dry. And why is that? It's just so they can make money, people. It's all about money. And yes, if we all run a war, we're all gonna be suffering, and and there'll be a water war probably within 15 years' time. And we gotta do our best that we can to save water and to save those lakes as well. Save them from drying out as well. And we also got a lake that's in Kazakhstan that's called ELBC, and that's been dry out after the Soviets decided to actually divert one of the rivers so they can actually irrigate their cotton plantation. And that wasn't just in the 1960s as well. That's like just about 50 years ago when they decided to just divert the rivers so they can have their cotton plantation watered and so they can keep the cotton growing. And slowly, surely, the aerial sea starts to dry up as well. And it shows them on the satellite pictures. Even the day when I was born, there was still a lot of water in that lake as well. There was still quite a lot of water. But now today, it's getting close to almost dried up. Almost completely dried up. And yes, that's the consequences when you just decide to divert the, the lake source. Yeah, just to try to keep your plantation watered. And yes, that's what happens. It has nothing to do with like global warming or climate change as well. And yes, it changes all the time. It is a constant thing. It can't be ceased. Climate change can never be ceased, people. They say it's always going to be a problem, but hey, it's not. There's times that it's going to be hot, but there'll be times that'll be cold. And it's always have been that for millions of years. Always has been. And yes, with the blue gold, and I heard about the documentary about the blue gold, I haven't watched it yet. And yes, and the corporations and elites want to create the blue gold because so they can have control of the water. It's all about control, people. And in here in New Zealand, even our government's trying to get water privatization here in New Zealand. But as we can oppose that here in New Zealand, we can actually save this country from drying up. So people, we need your help to actually prevent those water wars from ever occurring, because water is our precious resource. We will die without it, animals will die without it, plants will die without it, and fish can't swim without it. And it's a very important resource, and it always has been for millions of years. And civilization as well. Yeah, that's all my water there. I drink it from the glass as well. And yes, that's another how it's important to me as well to have water. It keeps me hydrated and it helps to flush all the yuckies out of your body as well, all the chemicals as well, boy. And yes, plants do need it, and yeah, I've got some garden ones just in my room because it actually purifies the air in my room as well, and I'll be actually sleeping a bit better as well. And it's actually a nice, it's good to have a bit of nature in your room as well, and people, that's what we've got to do something about. And yet, Australia's always been getting affected by drought pretty often as well, and they're always getting water restrictions often. And we just need to just learn to go respect nature and to actually go back to nature, people. That's how, and that's what's going to help us survive in human ways. It's actually in nature. It's not all our consumerism as well. Oh, gotta have this, gotta have that. It's time to just throw your the consumerism ego away. It's time to throw that away. It's not going to really help you. But it's always good to have some things as well. But like, you gotta always just have it for your need, not just your wants as well. And yes, and I know you always like your sports people, but man, you gotta know that it's time to actually give up those things as well, so we can actually have our future people. And that's what we want. And as I will try to ring up the lady to have an interview about the geoengineering, see if that California drought, of course it is the case as well, so I'm going to actually try to call her on the phone pretty much now anyway, because, yeah, well, that's the time now. And I'm going to probably see if I can get the interview, or otherwise I'll probably just be doing the closing on the next segment as well, so I'll end it right here.